Hello, everyone. This is Andres Restart. Today, I am joined by a special guest here for the very first time. Maybe one of my favorite people to watch when it comes to interviews within the gaming industry, and that is Reese Riley, Kiwi Talks. His channel and Twitter are linked in the description below. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Nice intro. I
Yeah.
think you're being too nice, but it's all good. It's good. I
No,
appreciate it.
I'm being serious though. Like obviously I'm a huge Metroid fan, right? So when you've gone like these different like Retro Studios devs on there, especially like because we've been in such like a huge Metroid drought, like the
Oh
information you
yeah.
put out there has been just like gold for us starved Metroid fans. So no, you've done amazing work. I don't want to sell you should not be selling yourself short at all.
I
Yeah.
think it's a typical New Zealand thing. I think we're too modest. But I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that's supported everything that I've done and in terms of making these interviews happen with the Retro Studios devs and obviously the devs themselves for agreeing to do them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole awesome part. Like just being able to like build those relationships and communicate with all these people. Like I'm always impressed. I'm like, man, how'd you get that person? How'd you get that person? That's such a cool thing.
Yeah, I get asked that quite a bit. Like, how do you do it? And it's just me asking them. I wish I had some real cool plan that I could give you, but it's really just a simple matter of reaching out to them and they say yes. Some say no as well, but yeah, that's all it is.
Do you ever get ghosted?
Oh, all the time. Not just with retro devs, but like probably for every one person that agrees, I probably get like 50 no's.
Okay.
From devs, yeah.
So
and it could be for
really you're just persistent.
Yeah, pretty much. And there can be a number of reasons why they say no. Maybe they have social anxiety, NDAs.
Sure. Yeah.
Some of them don't want to be in front of a camera. There could be multiple reasons. At one point, I was beating myself up over it because I was like, "Oh, am I doing something wrong?" But over time, I think I've just come to work out that some people just don't want to talk, and you can understand, right? If all day you're like doing video games, the last thing you might want to do when you get home is talk about video games. Maybe you just want to chill for a bit. So I can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand it. Like, I'm a content creator, right? So I talk about Nintendo all the time, and I'm super passionate about this. So like, I'll still talk about this stuff, like in real life, let's call it that, right? Like outside of the YouTube space, but it is a little different. Like I do spend a lot of my energy talking about it here. And right now, like if people bring it up, I'll still talk about it now because we're like in overhyped mode because the Switch 2,
Totally.
right? Everything's been shown. But once we get back to more of a norm, the level in which I speak about Nintendo to the everyday person is greatly reduced. Like I try not to like overload them with all this stuff. But then someone invites me onto their show, right? And I'm like, I jump on and then we talk about it for 3 hours. I'm like, oh my God, that was way too long, but I just had fun the entire time. So
yeah. No, makes sense. And look, I'm the same. I get Metroid fatigue from time to time as well. So it's good to break it up and speak to other people. So when I come back to it, I'm fully charged as opposed to just talking about it all the time. Because I'd get over it after a while. And that would be with anything.
Yeah. I mean, like I love basketball, right? But
oh, nice.
Like I've actually been like I joined like a rec league, got our butts kicked, right? And now my friends are like, hey, let's jump into the next season. I'm like, really? Like immediately after? Maybe we should like, wait a little bit. So like, sometimes I think it's just natural that we need a little bit of a break here and there. So I get that. But shout outs to the chat. I see you. So Reese, we're gonna focus on our discussion, right? I will do Q&A a little bit later once Reese steps out because he's not going to be here for as long. But please let me know how everything is looking and sounding now. And if you do have any questions specifically for Reese from Kiwi Talks, at me, pin me, and I'll try and get to those before he steps out. But I mean, let's just jump into things here.
Yeah, man.
I guess we got our Mario Kart World Director today, right? So
yeah, we did.
Did you see it at all? Have you heard what's been going on with that?
Yeah, I did watch it earlier this morning. Obviously, due to time zone difference, I didn't watch it live because it was like 2 a.m. in the morning here.
Sure.
But I did watch it, and I'm kind of like, meh, not bad, not great, but
Yeah.
I think it comes back to the whole expectations versus reality thing.
Yeah.
Because I think people had their expectations were way up here, and it was kind of they were just reinforcing stuff that they talked about. I feel in the trailer and in the direct. So I don't know, but how do you feel about it?
So I'm so hyped for this game, right? I think a lot of us are. But I do think like going in, there was a little bit of okay, this game is priced higher than prior Nintendo games. That's a big talking point, right? Unfortunately, but it is, right? And I don't like really talking about it that much, but it's kind of part of the conversation. And there were different Nintendo representatives. They kind of pointed us towards the direct, like, hey, there's more to free roam than what you're seeing here, right? Or like Bill Trinan in it. I think it was an IGN interview. He's like, hey, I noticed you weren't really feeling Mario Kart World too much. Just pay attention to the direct. I think it might impress you. Immediately after answering a question about the pricing, right? So maybe the Nintendo representatives might have set themselves up for this one a little bit, but I mean, I watched the direct and I was like, okay, like I liked what I saw, but then at the end I was like, oh, that's it. And so and then I was like, okay, maybe there needed to be. I feel like there needed to be like one more thing that was kind of crazy, and there wasn't, or I don't think they did a good job of really selling it, if that makes any sense, right? Because a lot of it was recap, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is all the same stuff. What's new?" And I think there is some new stuff. I had a video kind of talking about that today, right? But it's kind of like not extremely obvious stuff. So, yeah, I do feel like the direct a little underwhelming. The game itself still amazing.
Yeah, and I think if Mario Kart was priced as a typical game, I don't think this stuff would matter as much.
You're
but
correct.
It's because of the price that it's become this big thing, and it's actually overshadowing the game, I feel, a little bit. But then I think also at the same time we have to keep in mind that this is the ultimate casual game, right? I mean, the demographics for this thing goes from like a 5-year-old to an 80-year-old. Pretty much anyone can play it. So maybe this was not necessarily targeted at the hardcore Mario Kart fans, possibly. But Nintendo's marketing is always weird. They're quite an unorthodox company, so it's very hard to try and understand some of the stuff that they do.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly questions, for sure, and I think you bring up a good point though about the casual element, right? Like, I totally agree. Like, this game is just going to continue to sell for years to come, just like 8
100%.
Deluxe. Will it sell as much? Kind of hard to believe, but it's probably going to still be a top seller. And so yeah, like all this stuff isn't really that big of a deal. It's going to be a good game. If people get their hands on it, there's going to be more word of mouth. When I have the game, I'm going to invite my friends over. They're all going to play it. And eventually, may not be in the first month, maybe not in the first year, but within a couple of years, majority of my friends will have a Switch 2. They have Mario Kart World. Like, that's kind of how it's going to go for most people, I bet, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's the ultimate local multiplayer game, I feel. I mean, Mario Kart 8 sold like, 70 million units or something? That's more than the entire population of the UK. So
wild.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, to me personally, I'm the type of person that wouldn't buy a system for Mario Kart. I'd buy a system for another game and then get Mario Kart. Like, it's the game you get after the game you want the system for. That's me personally. But there will be some casual people that would be all in just on Mario Kart. And I think from a marketing standpoint, it is smart because it is their biggest IP, 100%.
Yeah. And actually, I guess we'll kind of use this to kind of just like continue. Like, what would be that game that you would pick
for me
for? Yeah.
Well, I think it's obvious. Metroid
I
Prime,
think it is,
obviously. Yeah. So mainly because of the 4K and the 120 frames per second. It's the big selling point for me. Obviously, it's very hard for me to talk about this stuff because there's some stuff I know and there's some stuff I don't know. And when I say something, it can be easily misconstrued. Like, if I'm speculating, they might think that what I'm saying is gospel, which might not necessarily be the case. I mean, there is stuff about Prime 4 that I know that has not been revealed yet. And then there's still a lot of stuff that I do not know.
Right.
But I think everybody can safely assume that Retro is still keeping their cards close to their chest with Prime 4. Like, they've shown the intro and the first little bit of Euros. And
is it even the first hour? You know?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, that intro section, the treehouse part, you could probably do that in what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah. I think I heard
very
someone beat it in like 4 or 5 minutes, but they probably went in with the intent to do like, so I think, all right, so we first had the New York experience event, right? And then there was the LA one. Yeah. And so people already kind of knew about, they saw a treehouse, right? So they kind of had a game plan going into the LA events because they've been a few days. And so I think some people who kind of knew what it was about were able to kind of just like blitz the introduction. And I mean, if you're good at shooting, I think if you do some missile like lock-ons, you can probably beat the boss pretty quickly. Because I know some people have some issues like hitting the targets on the body for that space pirate. But I think if you use missiles effectively, you can probably blitz them pretty quick, right? Like kind of like, you know, the Parasite Queen in Prime 1. Like if you use the missile combination trick, like
you can spam it and just
5 seconds it's dead, right? So
yeah,
I mean, in theory we could probably speed run it, but probably for the normal person 10 to 15 minutes, right?
I think that's a good time, for the average person. And obviously it depends on whether you're using a controller or a mouse as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and what your play style is. But something that I found interesting, because I actually think the intro was a direct response to Prime 3, because people have criticism of Prime 3 in terms of its intro. They feel it's too long and it doesn't really get into the Metroid-y stuff until you get to Brio. And that's maybe an hour, maybe 2, depending on how fast you play.
Sure, because there's like almost like 2 prologues in a way.
Yeah, you've got the one on the GFS Olympus, and then you've got the bit on Norion.
Both are longer than this.
Yeah. So it looks like they've kind of taken the idea of the intro from Prime 3 and consolidated it into this. I mean, it's a very, very good tutorial level, I think, to really help people who maybe aren't familiar with Metroid get up with what's happening and how you use the morph ball and how you shoot and the mouse controls and all of that stuff. So it looks like it'll be very good, and then it actually gets you into the main game afterwards. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah.
Right. I appreciate the distinction, by the way, where you say that's what you're thinking, right?
Yes, because I know people will be like, "Oh my god, he's confirming something."
Yeah, I mean, so I get where you're coming from, right? So like, you know, I cover like a lot of rumors and stuff from people I consider to be credible, right? So I've talked about you a few times, right? And I understand like you're gonna say some things, but also you can't say everything, and you know, there's a little bit of wiggle room there, right? So you always got to be cautious.
I don't want Nintendo to get all litigious on me. We know what they're like, right? So
right, and then you look at people like Nate the Hate, who get a lot of attention, and I think every time he says something, people think it's a leak.
100%.
And it's not always a leak. He does his predictions videos. He says, "I think this is happening," and then when it doesn't happen, see, you're a fake leaker. He didn't say it was a leak, so it's
just the way it goes. Yeah,
right. I mean, and I'm not gonna pretend to be an insider, but there have been a few times where I've heard something from someone I trust, right? And maybe I'll make mention of it in some way. And so because of that, I feel like even I have to be careful sometimes. Like, hey, this is not something I've been told. It's not something I haven't heard. This is just literally why I think. Why do I think it? And I'll explain why I'll think it. But it's not because of anything, you know. I try to clarify.
You do kind of have to cover it, though. I mean, that's part of your job. You kind of have to do it. But yeah, I mean, there was a rumor I think I saw yesterday about how they're already working on Metroid Prime 5, and I can tell you right now that that's BS, man. No, they're not working on Metroid Prime 5. They're in polish mode right now. I've heard that it's not finished. So they're still polishing it. So this idea that they're working on Metroid Prime 5 while Metroid Prime 4 is in the can is just not right.
Well, let's dig a little deeper on that though. Because like, so the person that this rumor originated from is Nash Weedle, right?
Yes.
And I talk about Nash Weedle, and I always kind of get like, there's always like a little bit of a debate about this. But the thing is, like, over the years, I've seen Nashville say some things. I'm like, oh, that was really hard to kind of say was a thing. Like before the direct, he said that Donkey Kong, War on the Street, Donkey Kong's going to be coming out this year and not 3D Mario. And so that was kind of like a tough thing to call, So like I looked at that, right. He was right. And then he was also talking about like they were being an Elden Ring Special Edition, and he was one of the first people to talk about that before it became a popular like speculation idea, and then it was confirmed. So it's kind of like this kind of keeps happening. Like last year was the Mario and Luigi brothership thing. But then there have been other times where he said some things like, oh, I don't know. That seems like really hard to believe. And so I'm not sure, right? What I wonder if he's right, the only way I can see it is if maybe a part of Retro Studios is still working on Prime 4, to your point, right? And maybe they're in the beginning stages with some other, maybe like the artist or what have you, and they're setting the stage for Prime 5. But 2027 still feels like a stretch. Like even if that's true, feels like a big stretch.
No way will it be 2027. It's very hard to believe, because usually what happens towards the end of development is they're in polish mode. And I know specifically with Retro Studios, towards the end of development, they usually crunch, at least for a month.
Okay.
I've heard nothing of them crunching on this game. Now, it could be that Nintendo just don't want them to crunch. That could be a possibility as well.
The standards have changed, right? Like Retro Studios back in the day was like that was, yeah.
I mean, Prime 1, they did crunch for 9 months, and the devs have told me on multiple occasions that they were there pretty much 24/7 for the last 9 months, which is crazy. Some of them missed their kids' birthdays. The sacrifices they made were immense, right? So the crunch wasn't as bad from what I understand on Prime 2, and then even up on Tropical Freeze, I think it was just a month. But I've heard nothing of crunch happening at the studio. But yeah, maybe it is because of Nintendo's changing of standards and just want to make sure that they don't crunch at all. I would definitely say that Prime 5 will be a thing, because they've invested so much time and money into this thing that you need to maximize your investment. So from what I understand, is the budget for the game is close to $100 million. So
do we know how much the budget was for Breath or Tears?
I don't know the budget, but I will say Miyamoto said that they had to sell 2 million to break even
for Breath.
So yeah, Breath of the Wild. But one of the things you have to take into account is salaries in Japan are much smaller than America. Yeah, especially in the metropolises. So $100 million, you have to sell. I think in Nintendo's case, because obviously they take the full, they don't have to pay like a fee, right? Because it's their own store. Because third parties have to pay, what is it? The like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, I think they take a 30% cut. So in this case, they would control and they would get the full profit if it's digital. But with that being said, they'd have to sell close to 5 million to break even on this thing. No Metroid game is obviously sold anywhere close to that. Dread has sold 3 million. And I'm not saying Prime 4 can't do it, but it's going to be a tall order, especially with their marketing, what they're doing with this thing.
So far.
Odd. Yeah, very odd.
I mean, and for that reason, I mean, I think it's been one of the biggest arguments for why there needed to be a cross-gen version of this game.
Yeah.
And I've been debating this for like 2 straight years. Like, listen, this is a cross-gen game. Like, just from it just makes sense. Like, just from it just makes sense, right? But then you look at like how software sales have been trending down over the last couple of years for Switch games. Like, they might have a bigger spike because of the install base, but the legs are far weaker. And so, how can Nintendo go in to 2025 with both Pokemon and Prime 4 and think that they're not like that just a Switch 1 titles? Like, that's just not a good business move. And sure enough, we got Switch 2 editions, right? And now Prime 4 looks like the best Switch 2 edition. Like, and it's interesting you bring up the marketing, because there has been a conversation of, like, does Nintendo even care about Metroid Prime 4? Are they trying to brush this under the rug? I don't think so, but I want your take on this.
It's really hard to say. Because I thought their marketing campaign for Dread was very good. I thought the trailer was very good. A lot of adrenaline within the trailer. Had a lot of hype going to it. A lot of quick cuts. The Prime trailers haven't really. I wouldn't even call them trailers. They're kind of just gameplay footage, but it's very disjointed, and I'm not sure as to why. And I don't feel like they've really sold the game to the mass market. Like, we're going to buy a Metroid game anyway.
Yeah.
But I think to the general public, or to people that have never played a Metroid Prime game before, they're just going to look at it and they'll be like, so this just looks like a generic shooter. Like, because they haven't shown anything yet. So I don't quite understand what their game plan is, because I thought the treehouse footage was great. Like that intro cinematic.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, was brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And I remember watching the treehouse footage and I was thinking, why wasn't more of this in the trailer? Like, you could have done like a really hype trailer last year with the very first trailer, rather than just doing gameplay footage of Samus, morph ball and then whatever. You could have done like some quick cuts with gameplay footage, intercut with Vuros and the intro. I think you could have done some really cool stuff there, but it could just be that they're doing like another Tears of the Kingdom type thing. Because you remember the Tears of the Kingdom trailers? At first, it was just kind of like this. Breath of the Wild, and it wasn't until the third trailer where they went hype. They went ham on that.
It's a really good point. And I've made some comparisons to Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm kind of curious. I mean, it's probably just coincidence, but have you kind of noticed at the beginning that the Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Prime 4 seem to start off very similarly? So they each have like a very quick, very cinematic introduction, right? All hell breaks loose. Something bad happens to Link. Something bad happens to Samus. They wake up in otherworldly places, and now they have new special mystical arm powers.
Touche. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's probably a coincidence, but it's interesting.
Yeah. I think the advantage that Tears of the Kingdom had, though, was Breath of the Wild was so well received. It was critically acclaimed, right?
Absolutely.
One of the best games of all time. So people were hyped for Zelda anyway. I mean, it's been like, 17 years since the last Metroid Prime game?
2007 was Prime 3, right? So
yeah.
It's
crazy amount of time. Yeah, there'll be some gamers that are just, they weren't even born when the last last one was made. So it's a different scenario, and you really have to get the casual base on board once again. Well, not necessarily the casual base, but people that are noobs to this stuff, and especially if you want to hit that 5 million target. So I'm thinking maybe after Donkey Kong's out, they might push Metroid Prime 4 a little harder.
Oh yeah.
And also
or a lot harder. And they could be just playing it safe because of GTA 6 as well, because that's really an anomaly, and because you don't want to release anything near that. They might be waiting to see when GTA 6 drops, so they don't. You think are they even debating they might delay it?
Prime 4? I don't think so. It looks to me that they've got a game sussed for every single month until the end of the year, because obviously it launches with Mario Kart, and you got Donkey Kong, and then Pokemon, Kirby Air Riders.
We're not counting like Mario Party and Forgotten Land, right? Yeah. So like, what about Drag Drive? Because Drag Drive doesn't seem like a full game to me.
Yeah, maybe that's a interesting one.
Right. I do have like my own theory on the outline. Right. You want to hear it?
Okay.
So
yep.
I mean, yes, we get Mario Kart. We have the Breath Tears, and we have Welcome Tour as the launch titles, right?
Yep.
July, we have Donkey Kong and Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 edition. Like that's all confirmed.
Yep.
And then in August, we know that we're getting the Kirby plus its DLC, Forgotten Land, right? Plus its DLC, August 28th. That's it. I think for sure there has to be something else in August. Maybe it's Prime 4. Although I feel like if Prime 4 was an August game, we might have gone a little bit more. So I'm leaning more towards Drag Drive, which they've already told us is a summer release. And maybe there's some sort of Switch 1 Shadow Drop or something for August. So August might just be like a more of a down month, but then maybe September is our ticket for Prime 4. Pokemon Legends ZA is a November game, and Kirby Air Riders is a December game. Now, Age of Imprisonment, they've told us winter, which could mean next year. Could be next year. Could also be slot into this year. I do feel like there are going to be some months where a game like Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders could be like 2 per month or something, you know? But if you notice, I skipped October because I think there's going to be at least one more big game announced for this year. I don't think it's 3D Mario.
No, I don't think it's 3D Mario.
Yeah.
I think they'll have their one big 3D platformer this year.
Right.
And then maybe next year, but then it depends. Like the team that's working on Donkey Kong Bonanza, it looks like the Mario Odyssey team. It does look looks like the same sort of design philosophy, the same sort of art style. If that is the case, then who knows when Mario drops?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one.
Yeah. My theory on that. So I believe the code name, this is not confirmed, right? But I just kind of like believe it with a lot of confidence. So the code name for Donkey Kong Bonanza is Silver Star. So there were 8 codename leaks for Nintendo projects last year from this user known as Midori. Doesn't post anymore. I don't know if you remember the name. Very popular for like Sega Atlas leaks. Super reliable. Shady character in terms of like a personality. But in terms of
I remember that.
Yeah, but the information was rock solid, right? Or like 95% accurate. You know, there's always a few little things. But these 8 names for code names for Nintendo games, it seems like we've already gotten some of them confirmed, right? So 2 of them, one of them was, I believe, Buffet, which we figured was a follow-up to Banquet, which is for Super Mario Party. So Super Mario Party Jamboree, right?
Yep.
Another one was Edward. And so there's the Tale of the Two Princes. So I forget the name, but there was one that was for Link's Awakening. So we presumed that there would be another one. It's the two princes from the Princes in the Tower. And so that we figured that there would be another 2D Zelda similar to Link's Awakening, and it ended up being Echoes of Wisdom. Uses the same style, 2D Zelda. And so those 2 have been confirmed to be those code names, right? So 2 of the 6 confirmed, but we now have a third one confirmed because we did get our Breath of the Wild remaster, because Yu King O being apparently for Ounce for the Switch 2 code name, we now have that confirmed because we have Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition. Donkey Kong Bonanza might be the Silver Star. So the thing about that one, I this is a lot to keep up with. So if just let me know if I lost it.
No. I'm with you.
Right.
I'm with you.
All right. So Silver Star, Midori said he wasn't sure what was going on with this project, right? But Silver Star is interesting because we know that Red Star was Mario Odyssey, and the code names for the adventure Mario games always have red, and then the other part just has to do with that particular game. So Red Star, Star for Odyssey, Red for Mario, Mario Odyssey. Silver Star implies something based off Odyssey, but not Mario. And so we look at this Donkey Kong game, looks to be clearly based off something Odyssey-like. And so this gets more interesting because there was actually 2 different reports we had from years back. One, this one's backed up by a few different like credible outlets, that Vicarious Visions was working on an open world Donkey Kong game 2016. Activision pulled out because they own Vicarious Visions. Nintendo really liked the idea, so they decided to work on their own 3D Donkey Kong game. Then shortly after Odyssey, another rumor came out, and a lot of people had heard about something Donkey Kong in the works. I heard it too, but part of this rumor was that the Odyssey team was working on a Donkey Kong game.
Well, that would add up, yeah.
And so now you all that together is like, oh, okay, well, Silver Star.
Yeah.
By the way, Donkey Kong has a silver version of himself. Super Donkey Kong is silver, and then also he is a gorilla, Silverback Gorilla. So I feel like the dev team could be working on a Donkey Kong game, and they'd be like, hey, you know what? Silver Star is a good code name for this, right? So not confirmed, but seems fairly likely, right? But the good news is about this, right? Assuming this is all true, one of those other code names is SP Red. which is
Okay.
3D Mario for
Yeah.
Switch 2, right? So, and the other interesting implication is that there's another one that we're not sure about. I believe it's Anna, like Elsa and Anna from Frozen.
Yeah.
Elsa was Switch Sports, and so Anna, I might be flipping the names, but it's one or the other. Anna, the implication is that that's supposed to be like some sort of follow up to Switch Sports. Some people are theorizing that might be Drag Drive, could be made by the same team, not confirmed. We'll see. And then the other two code names, Spiral is supposed to be something for Splatoon, and then Legacy would be the Monolith Soft new IP they supposedly been working on for like 7 years or something, because they've had the hiring page for this new action fantasy RPG with online elements throughout the entire Switch era, and only until last year they take it down. So those would be the code name leaks, right? Half of them have basically been confirmed, other half haven't, but they all seem, 4 of them are having recent, right? So, if SP Red is legitimate, then what is going on with 3D Mario? I think there's kind of no way 3D Mario is far off, like, because historically speaking, 3D Mario is always available, if not in that first year, second year for sure. And I mean, the Odyssey team hasn't put out a game since Odyssey, so even if they have been working on Donkey Kong, I almost got to think that maybe part of the team may have been working on Donkey Kong Bonanza, and maybe that became its own offshoot, right? Like maybe like a younger dev team has been working on Bonanza, right? And then like Koizumi might be like overseeing it, and then but still the majority is still working on that 3D Mario game, and they're spending a little bit more time, and that's a next year thing. That's my theory.
Possibly. Game development is taking longer. It's one thing to consider. And
Right.
another thing that I don't feel gets talked about as much is game developers actually suffer from burnout if they're working on the same project all the time.
Sure.
Like, I think Kirby Air Riders was to give Sakurai a break from Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Because you'd get franchise fatigue working on the same thing over and over and over.
Makes
so
sense.
I think the Odyssey team probably did Donkey Kong maybe as a break. And it was the same thing. I remember speaking to the Retro Studios devs. They were getting franchise fatigue before they even worked on Prime 3. So by the time Prime 3 came out, they were like, yeah, we need to do something else. So it might be Nintendo throwing them a lifeline as well. Like, hey, so with Sakurai, it might be like, hey, we'll let you do Kirby Air Riders, but you have to come back and do Smash. And we're like, hey, you have to do another 3D Mario, but we'll let you do Donkey Kong. Or it could just be maybe they were just prototyping, testing out mechanics and breaking stuff makes sense with Donkey Kong as opposed to Mario. There's so many different theories you could come up with in regards to this.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Yeah. My thing is just Odyssey came out in 2017. It's hard for you to believe that team could only make one game in that time. So
yeah, that is true. But isn't there a lot of overlap there as well? People
I mean, there's a lot of overlap, right?
Yeah, different projects. So it's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, you could be right. I suppose we'll find out next year.
Well, my hopium is that they tease 3D Mario for the 40th anniversary this September.
Yeah, and isn't there a Mario? There's a sequel to the Mario.
Yeah,
movie
so it's officially slated for April 2026. And so I mean, I kind of feel like all of this kind of has to combine, like a big 40th anniversary celebration. And I feel like Donkey Kong's a part of that too, though, because they got the park opening, right? Donkey Kong's in the movie, and we saw that the first Mario movie actually boosted Mario sales across the board, like all sorts of games. So like you get out a Donkey Kong game now with the park opening up. That makes so much sense. Wait a few months, maybe Luigi's Mansion 4 comes out for October. Would really help to fill out this year. And Next Level Games, they're due every 3 years to come out with a game. Then you tease 3D Mario for the 40th anniversary, start advertising the movie, and 3D Mario comes out sometime next year, takes advantage of that Mario movie marketing campaign or hype and excitement. They all kind of benefit each other.
Yeah,
that's the dream scenario.
And they might be just trying to diversify their lineup this year. One of the problems the Wii U had was it had way too many platformers. Like, just heaps of them.
Wii U?
Yeah, Wii U.
The side-scrolling ones.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
just platformers in general, right?
Okay.
I think that was part of the backlash for Tropical Freeze. Obviously, people were wanting Metroid, and we got Tropical
Yeah.
Freeze. I mean, do you remember that? Do you remember the
I
backlash?
remember there was it was like the show before the Game Awards, right? And Jeff Keighley was there, and I think Reggie had like a Metroid pin or something, and we were
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Oh my
right.
god! Oh, they're finally gonna announce Metroid Prime 4." And Jeff Keighley said, "We have a big reveal for you tonight," and it
Yeah,
was Cranky Kong.
yeah, that's right. And
Yeah,
it became a meme pretty much.
right.
Um, and I've spoken to some of the devs that worked on Tropical Freeze, and they were disappointed because people had built up these expectations in their minds. And part of the reason they did Tropical Freeze was because Donkey Kong Country Returns sold like, what was it, 9 million units or something.
Yeah,
So
it made sense
from an
it worked
economic
so hard.
standpoint, yeah,
Right. Like Donkey Kong was a better seller than Metroid. It made so
exactly.
much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it just came out at a time where there were just way too many platformers. You had like a Mario platform. I think you had Kirby, you had Yoshi, and there wasn't as much of a diverse lineup. So maybe this, when they're thinking of the initial launch, because your initial launch is incredibly important, because it helps kind of set the tone, and then you can build the momentum from there.
Sure.
So obviously you've got a racer, you've got Donkey Kong, which is a 3D platformer.
Yeah.
Dragon Drive, which is what, wheelchair basketball.
It's just a
Sports,
sport,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got Pokemon, obviously an RPG.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4, which is a first-person adventure. It's not a shooter. And what else?
But does it still hit that demographic a little bit though? Not that Nintendo feels they need to always have shooters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I looked up online after
Yeah.
the Prime 4 trailer came out, the first one and the second one, and there are still some people that are like, this just looks like a lame shooter. It's like, it's not a shooter, but it's kind of presented in a way where it can easily be misconstrued as people thinking it's a shooter.
Especially it has a very Halo vibe, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, the designers are fans of Halo, and I think
there's been some crossover there, because I feel like there was even Retro Studios devs that worked on Halo as well.
Yeah, so there were Retro Studios devs that left and went to 343. So that's why Halo 4, people were saying, this looks like Metroid Prime. I'm like, wow. Because
I remember that. Yeah.
And now people are like saying, Metroid Prime 4 looks like Halo. I'm like, well, do the research, trace it back.
And
who
copied who first?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And the art lead, I think, for Retro Studios currently worked on Halo 4, or he was like the lead on 4 and 5. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the specifics, but yeah, there is some crossover there. So there will be Halo influence within it. I do know one of the guys I interviewed, Paul Tozor, quite a while ago, because he was an engineer on Prime 3, and he said that a lot of the designers on Prime 3 were huge Halo fans, and they were trying to put more Halo-esque stuff into the game. And Tanabe-san was just like, I don't care about Halo. But they still tried to do it anyway. And obviously they were successful, because people were like, this looks like Halo. So there probably is some more elements of Halo within the game, but that's kind of a bit of the backstory.
These two series have been linked for such a long time. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities, but there's a lot of differences.
What, Prime 2 and a Halo 2 came out like the same month or something, around the same time? Yeah.
That was a terrible release strategy. Yeah. Prime 2 just died because it was released between Half-Life 2 and Halo 2, like two of the most important first-person shooters ever. So, and
I think the thing about that though is that even though it's first-person adventure, it presents as a shooter.
Yeah, well, there's shooting elements. So
I feel like BioShock is maybe a better comparison, right?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And there's more RPG elements to BioShock, but yeah. So it's a hard one, because I don't know how they're going to market it going forward, because
what I've told people over the years, it's first person space Zelda.
Yeah. Well, when I sell it to people, because I was at a games night last week. I competed at a Smash Brothers tournament, and somebody was asking me, Yeah, I did win.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
yeah. And somebody was asking me about Metroid because he's like, I don't know actually what it is. And I'm like, okay, you played Zelda, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you know how there's the overworld and there's dungeons? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, Metroid is basically one giant dungeon. That's basically like one interconnected labyrinth with heaps of puzzles and stuff. And he's like, oh, okay. And there's shooting elements within it, but there's a lot of puzzle solving, and obviously there's nothing in any type of first-person shooter game that has anything like the morph ball, as far as I'm aware, because that changes the whole dynamic completely.
I mean, there are first-person shooters that have mounts, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Vehicles, but that's it. But even then, like, how many first-person shooters are so puzzle-centric? And the thing is, I think there are very few games outside of the Nintendo sphere that do like puzzles and dungeons really well. That's kind of been like a Nintendo thing.
Yeah.
I would say Zelda and Metroid are usually the kings of that.
Yeah, I agree. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything, but it's a different design philosophy. Like Western games have a lot more of a, I suppose, a fixation on realism, and this has to appear real or look as real as possible, almost be like a sim in some cases. So as a result, they lean towards a more, I suppose, realistic graphical art style. And I suppose there's a little bit of that in Metroid, but it's kind of like stylized realism.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a fixation in the West on that, which is why no one in the West has really been able to fully do what Nintendo does. I mean, Astrobot came close to kind of doing what Mario does, but Japanese devs. So
yeah, good point. And I think that's one of the remarkable things about Retro Studios, though, because it is a Western developer, but wholly owned by Nintendo, and it's kind of like they found a way to make. I mean, they make very Nintendo feeling games. The level of polish they put in sometimes I feel like Retro Studios might even go above and beyond your typical Nintendo level of polish.
Yeah, I think because Retro Studios has almost like a fusion of Western and Eastern game design, because obviously a lot of the developers there are American, right? But it's overseen by NCL. You've got a Japanese producer, Tanabe, and even his shadow producer, is it Risa Tabata? And I know firsthand that they really fixate on design. They'll go to the designers, and if they don't like something, they'll flip the table on them. They're really strict in regards to that stuff. I think in regards to more the art style and that sort of thing, they leave them largely to it. There is an interview, I think, around about the time Prime 3 came out, with Iwata did that with Tanabe, and he was talking about early on when they were working on Metroid Prime, is they were trying to work out what the strengths and weaknesses were of Western design and Eastern design. So Tanabe was saying that one of the good things Western devs have is they have a sense of, I suppose, attention to detail when it comes to graphics and making it look as good as it can be. Mm-hmm. Whereas Japanese designers or devs tend to fixate more on the minute design, mechanical details. So that's why you probably get a bit of a fusion of both with the Metroid Prime games.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I think with Prime 3 they were moving a bit more in the Western route. Mm-hmm. But I think with Prime 4, it's coming back again.
Okay.
So, but I mean, look, as I said, there's heaps of stuff about Prime 4 that hasn't been revealed yet.
I want to ask you. I know you can't, so be cautious, right? But I think Prime 4 is a big deal. I believe you think Prime 4 is a big deal. But what is it that Nintendo can reveal that would kind of change the conversation about Metroid 2, where it's like, all right, this is going to sell 5+ million. What are they holding back beyond just more cool stuff? Like, is there something they're like, oh, that sets this game apart from, the rest?
I think I'm speculating here. I cannot
Speculation.
speculation, right? I don't know for sure, but I am 100% convinced that the speed booster is in this game.
Bro. Yeah, I know. Okay, go on. Go.
No. Well, okay. The reason why I say this is, so I'll just go back a bit to give a bit of context to this. So one of the devs that I interviewed a long time ago, Zoid Kirsch, he was the senior engineer on Prime 1 and Prime 2. And when I interviewed him, he spoke about how they designed the game, because they had a problem with RAM, right, in terms of how you loaded rooms. So you could only really load one room at a time. So what they did was if you notice with Metroid Prime 1, you had a hallway, room, hallway, room. That's kind of how they did it, right? And this was to conceal loading times. So they had to work out how big they could make a room, because the whole idea of Metroid Prime was they were trying to slow players down so they didn't get to the end. Because you know how if you got to a door too fast and then you try to open it, it would take ages to load the next room.
I would just shoot it like 20 times. All right, finally opened. Continue going.
Yeah. And a lot of that is due to the constraints in terms of how the loading worked. And even on Prime 3, they found ways to mask it with Skytown and stuff. But that limitation was still there. So you couldn't really have any long stretches. And they had to keep the rooms smaller because of that technological constraint. You can already see in Prime 4 on Vuros, there's that long-as bridge. Right,
yeah.
It's a long-as bridge, and it's just literally straight. And also there's
like some of the parts of the bridge are broken, so you might be do a little bit of jumping.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But on the artwork as well for Prime 4, you can see a massive desert.
Okay.
All right.
So I think we're on the same page.
Yeah. And also in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, there was a small glimpse of Prime 4, right? And there's a bit where Samus goes into Morph Ball. She rolls through this little tunnel. She comes out. And for a moment, you see the third-person character, and she's running, right? And the motion is super smooth. It's very fluid.
she's on a little speed jog.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is they're going to implement, because a lot of people don't know this, but the Metroid Prime games have one of the most complicated third-person cameras that exists. It's an extremely powerful camera system. So what they've probably done, once again speculation, I'm assuming here, is they've found a way to implement the speed booster. So maybe you run for a bit and then it pans, it kind of pulls out into third person, similar to like Morph Ball or Screw Attack. That's what I'm thinking.
How cool would it be if you can do like hard pivots? Because when you do speed booster, you can is it Shine Spark?
Shine Spark, yeah.
Right. Like, what if they could also implement Shine Spark? Right. Because with speed booster, at least remember in Dread, right? Like you stop, you kind of like build up that energy, and you can use it to shoot in a direction. Like imagine like you're. All right. So let's go back to that key art you mentioned, right? Because I've been theorizing on this, right? I agree. Prime 4 not going to be open world at least not in the like the traditional sense where it's just mass. Like it's got to be room based, right? I agree with that. But what if there is like a vast expanse like the desert? Because it's a desert, that's not as resource intensive.
Yeah,
I think kind of like an ocean, right? And so maybe we could see Samus speed boost through that. There could be a few points of interest because we see in the art, there's a few different like interesting things in that desert there, right? And I think like you show in a trailer like Samus like speed boosting along like a vast expanse. That's a good sales pitch, you know? Because open world sells. It's not open world, but when you kind of show like it's just a great way to kind of like excite people to the idea of the adventure.
Yeah, I mean, people who think it's going to be Breath of the Wild, no, you can't do the level of geometric detail in a Metroid Prime game at 60 frames per second and think you can pull off something like Breath of the Wild. Zelda has a lot more of a simple art style, and it's running at 30 on Switch 1. You got to remember this is a Switch 1 game. So they won't be doing open world. They can do open spaces now, though, because there's not really the loading restrictions. There'll still be loading restrictions to some point because obviously the art is much more intensive, right? It's running at 4K, obviously, on Switch 2.
Maybe with this desert, right, there isn't like doors. It's more like elevators, which is more opportunity to grant more loading.
Yeah, and if you got to remember, like with Metroid games, there's largely no other characters. Like in the intro section, there's so much going on with the treehouse section,
Sure.
right? You've got all these ships shooting stuff. You've got all these NPCs, all these different AI functions that have to take place. So as a result of that, it looks like the traditional Prime games, very corridor-based, small spaces.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing an open section and it's just you, pretty much, and maybe a couple of other creatures, you could just do a speed booster there, and it wouldn't be as intensive. So I think it's a thing. Obviously, I know people think that maybe I'm hiding something, but honestly, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
It just seems to make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and they have to have some sort of new hook, right? And I did ask, so I did a reaction of the Switch 2 Direct, and some Retro Studios or former Prime devs were in the chat. And I did ask one of them, Mike Wicken, he was the senior designer on the first 3 Prime games. And I did ask him, I was like, do you think Speed Booster is in this? He's like, I wouldn't rule it out, but it would be a real pain in the ass to deal with because of all the bugs. And then I said, well, you guys had heaps of bugs to deal with the screw attack, because that was a pain. The testing the screw attack was a real big pain for them.
I bet.
So the speed booster would be a similar problem. However, that's why you polish and you test, and you have great QA people that have to deal with all this stuff. Yeah,
I mean, we've seen evidence that they've been playtesting this game for a long time. So
yeah. So I think they've wanted to put the speed booster in for a long time, but there was no way they could do it justice without it coming across like hokey or just not up to the standard of what people would expect.
Right.
So,
I mean, yes, speed booster in 3D versus 2D is different. I mean, we did see a speed booster on the other end, which was cool.
Yeah.
I did like it in that. But that's a different scenario. What was I going to say?
A lot to think about.
No, it is a lot to think about. What do you make of the mouse controls?
I think that's good. I think opening the door to more mouse-oriented mouse usually it's mouse and keyboard, but mouse-oriented people, I think is good in terms of reaching a wider demographic. Some people didn't like the Wii remote. Some people don't like controller for first-person games, not first-person shooters, but first-person games. But I think including the mouse adds more of a hardcore element to it, and I think giving people options is never a bad thing, because you reach a wider demographic that way. I watch quite a few streamers who are predominantly PC gamers watch the Switch 2 Direct.
Yeah,
and a lot of them were hyped for Prime 4. Nothing else, just Prime 4. And a lot of it had to do with the mouse controls and the 120 frames per second.
That 120 FPS blew me away.
Yeah, that was like a mic drop. I was like, wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah.
You know what they should have done? They should have put Pokemon and Metroid round the other way. Because you went from like 4K, beautiful art style, 120 frames per second, like this beautiful game, and then it went straight to Pokemon. So by comparison, it's like really jarring, because it's like, what is this? This looks like a 1080p up-resed PS2 game. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just like a hardcore Pokemon fan. I was like, oh, it looks not as bad. So I was pleasant. I think when I saw it, I was also just so happy about Metroid that I was like, just a little bit. It's just cherries on top. But I did find it interesting, kind of going a little bit back to like, how much does the Nintendo care about this game? Because the fact of the matter is they use Metroid Prime 4 to sell the resolution abilities to Switch 2, the performance abilities to Switch 2 with the frame rate, and the mouse controls. Those are all important things. Like, because of Prime 4, I think the conversation of Switch 2 versus PS4 bodes really well, because, I mean, PS4 can't do 4K, PS4 can't do 120 FPS, but we see that on Prime 4, right? Now, obviously, I know there's different things there, right? But, it helps to sell the pitch that Switch 2 is somewhere between a PS4 and a PS5. but it's also a hybrid console with mouse controls. And so I just kind of look at that. I'm like, hey, I mean, Nintendo clearly sees that Prime 4 is important. They put it in as a treehouse segment. They didn't have to do that. I didn't think they were going to. I was just happy that they confirmed there was going to be a Switch 2 edition. So I don't think that it's not a situation. It's a situation where they don't care. Also, like financially, how? Like to your point, like if they've invested this much money, I feel like they would want to try to actually like not lose.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why there's a Switch 2 edition, because they need to sell as much as they can.
Yeah, I get it. It's just because of their history with the franchise that I think causes this worry.
Yeah.
I've reached out to the PR person of Reggie because I'm trying to get an interview with Reggie at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Because this is a question I want to ask him. I want to
Fingers
know
crossed.
I want to know what the marketing was like in terms of Metroid. Because you got to think of it like Nintendo cares very much about Japan, right?
Sure.
And let's just call a spade here. Metroid is not popular in Japan. They do not care about it.
Not yet.
So it makes me wonder how they perceive it, because they've done things in the past. Like what they did for Samus Returns, they basically sent it out to die. They just chucked it at the end. It wasn't even in the direct. It was in Treehouse afterwards. And Switch had already had momentum at this point. What was another? Like Metroid Prime 2, releasing it between Half-Life 2 and Halo 2. And sometimes, like the marketing just doesn't make sense. I mean, Dread's marketing was good.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the few times it was good. But largely, they just do stuff regarding Metroid that doesn't really make sense. Even Metroid
Like
Prime Remastered.
Okay, I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, they shadow dropped that. And I was like, what? No marketing? Even the trailer was a bit weird. They just chuck it in the middle of a direct. Like one of the greatest games of all time. It had like a 97% on Metacritic, the original
$40.
game.
USD, which is nice, but also it sends a message, right? Like there are worse games that Nintendo charges more for.
Yep. So
I think Donkey Kong, Mario vs. Donkey Kong was like $50 or $60 in comparison. A Game Boy Advance remake. I don't know. It's just a very
the Prime Remastered cost a lot of money for them to make. People probably don't think that because it's just a remaster, but you look at the credits on that game. There's like 400 plus people that worked on that game, and then there's all the contractors and stuff that weren't credited. That would have been expensive to make. And they released it in February, which is a month where you usually don't release games because people don't have as much disposable income after Christmas. So shadow dropping it, doing it in February, and then they didn't have a physical edition until much later in the month. It was so weird.
So I remember, do you know who Jeff Grubb is?
Yeah, I remember Jeff.
Yeah, so he had to shave his head because he had made a bet.
That's right.
That
I remember that.
Prime Remastered would be a holiday title for 2022, and it wasn't. And he had to shave his head. And then 6 weeks later, Nintendo's like, "Oh, here's Prime Remastered." Shadow dropped February. And so, from what he apparently initially heard, they wanted Prime Remastered as like a holiday 2022 release, which might have made more sense for a game like that. Instead, they shadow drop it.
What was released in December 2022?
2022 was actually a good year.
Yeah.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out for the holiday.
Okay. So maybe they didn't want to release Prime around about that time. Maybe they thought Pokemon might cannibalize it, but I think it's two different audiences.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had a very negative conversation about the polish. Had Prime Remastered come out around that time, it might have been like a really nice foil, actually. It's like, hey, this is a very poorly polished Nintendo game. Here's an extremely polished Nintendo game. And so, I don't know. I think it might have worked in its favor. But those things are hard to predict. I don't think Nintendo anticipated how bad it was. They just trusted Game Freak to not do a terrible job.
Yeah. And it does make me wonder now, what are they doing with Prime 2 and 3? I mean, I've been asked about this. What's happening with Prime 2 and 3? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Like, Jeff and Nate the Hate have said stuff about these HD ports.
Yeah. But even Nate has given up on the idea at this point.
Yeah, I've never even heard of these things existing at all. I haven't heard about Prime 2 and 3 remastered as well. I think it would be a Herculean effort to do it.
I'm remembering something that happened. And There was someone who was interviewing an Iron Galaxy developer. Was it you? I don't.
Yeah,
It might.
it was me.
Did the video get pulled?
Yeah, I had to pull it down, man. Dude, you have
Can I
no idea the
can
type
I
of stuff
ask what
I have.
happened?
Yeah, I can tell you what happened. So, obviously, I interviewed. He worked for GameSim, which I think is one of the external studios that worked on Prime Remastered. So I reached out to him. He agreed for an interview. We did the interview. I think it was a day after it aired. Nintendo had contacted people at GameSim and were like threatening to shut the studio down or something over his interview. And he was a former employee.
Former.
Like he wasn't even there. He didn't even work
Right.
at the company anymore, right? And it was oh man, it was a huge problem to deal with. And I just pulled the interview off because first of all,
So you weren't told to take it down. You just thought it was best to.
well, no, he asked me to take it down
Okay.
because it was causing massive problems with GameSim.
Okay.
Like the
Okay.
directors there and everything. It was
Okay.
actually souring the relationship between GameSim and Nintendo.
Okay.
Yeah, and the same thing happened to me again with a dev who was the lead producer on Skyward Sword HD. He worked at Tantalus. He was no longer at Tantalus. I interviewed him, and same thing, like Nintendo was threatening to like pull contracts and stuff with
I mean, what
Tantalus.
is this like a non-compete clause or something if they like talk about production?
Yeah, I think there's something in the contract. It was basically they both broke NDAs, but I think some people they just read their contracts and they don't look at NDAs,
Right.
and especially after they've left the company, they probably don't think it applies.
Right.
But, and I
Yeah.
do want to say this is not just a Nintendo thing. The same thing has happened with Rockstar. Like those
Okay.
two, I have problems with, which is why I have to be careful when I'm interviewing people from these companies, because some of these NDAs are like lifelong, and I don't want to cause devs to lose their job or be blacklisted,
Right.
over just asking them about something simple as like, oh, how did you do the art on this game?
Yeah.
So
Are you still like on good terms with these devs, by the way, or was that kind of like an awkward?
yeah, it's like, I mean, some of them freak out, they start
Yeah.
panicking.
Right.
And rightly so. Like if I try and put myself in their position, right, this is their livelihood. They need these jobs to put
Absolutely.
food on the table. And so, I mean, I could be an absolute ass about it and just be like, nah, I'm just going to leave it up. Too bad.
Right.
But I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, out of respect for the devs, I take them down. So, well, actually, one I took down, one I had to highly edit. I had to do like 4 different edits and get it approved.
Okay.
But multiple times. Yeah. So that's like people have asked me, they're like, oh, you're going to interview devs after Prime 4 comes out. I'm like, no. Because of NDAs, there's no way I can do it. I can speak to former devs, like the old retro
Right.
crew. So
Right.
I'm actually planning, after Prime 4 comes out, I'm going to try and organize a retro studios reunion with the OG devs. Get them all together on a Zoom call and then
Be awesome.
review. Yeah, so they can reminisce about the old games, but also review Prime 4 at the same time. That's the idea. Whether I can pull it off, though, I don't know, because they're all scattered all over America and Canada and time zones.
Yes,
and all
that's tough. That's
yeah,
tough.
So it's an idea. Whether I can pull it off or not, I don't know. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so if I remember, I mean, it may not have been related, but I think that interview from Iron Galaxy, there was something mentioned about wanting to remaster Prime 2. I don't know if that's what set off
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah, because it got coverage by all these publications.
Right.
And
any ounce of evidence for a Prime 2 remaster, people will jump at.
yeah, but he didn't even say that he was working on it. All he said was, I would like to work on it.
Right.
So he didn't actually reveal anything. All he said was,
No.
oh, I'd like to work on it. And people were like, oh my God, Prime 2 Remastered exists. And as the internet does, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it caused a whole bunch of internal turmoil
Wow.
within the company. And I mean, I've stayed in contact with the dev.
Okay.
I follow him on Twitter and he follows me. And
Okay.
yeah, we're all good. There's no problem.
That's good.
It's just yeah, it's just
It's the nature of the beast. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be obnoxious.
it's just what it is with what I do. I mean, I try with any interview I do, I always tell the devs right at the beginning, I'm like, hey, I don't record this live for a reason. So if there's anything you need me to take out, you let me know.
Yeah.
And usually there is stuff I have to take out. Sometimes they'll tell me midway through, oh yeah, cut that out. Sometimes you can get into a bit of a groove and
Sure.
you're just getting excited about something and then you say something and you're like, oh, oops. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it does happen. I mean, think about the actors in the Avengers movies.
Oh
You know how
yeah.
they were how they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
leaking stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What's his face?
Mark Ruffalo,
Yeah.
he revealed the ending to what was it, Infinity War.
Yeah, I remember something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it does happen. So I make that very clear from the start. But then sometimes I think they don't realize what they've said. And then an interview comes out and a whole bunch of gaming publications pick it up and then it goes viral for whatever reason. And they're like, oh, you know, so.
Yeah. What's crazy is sometimes the story might not be picked up immediately, but the right person watches it, they write an article, people see that article or people see that video, then kind of just all happens. You might think everything's fine for a week and then all of a sudden it blows up.
Yeah, because I've
yeah.
I've got a Google alerts set up, so it notifies me every time Kiwi Talks gets mentioned, and that's just so I can keep an eye on
Sure.
things, just so I can see what's going on. And yeah, sometimes like I'll wake up in the morning and got like 100 alerts, sometimes from publications in Russia and South Korea, and I'm like, what's going on?
That's crazy.
It might be one publication, let's say Nintendo Life writes an
Sure.
article, and
Yeah.
then another publication takes the article, and then they post the same article, and then IGN takes it or VGC takes it, and then so the same article gets printed like 100 times, like this 10-second snippet from like an hour-long interview. Yeah, so, and I think that's what happened with that Prime Remastered one. I can't even remember who first posted the article, and then everybody just copied the article, and then it just became this big thing about Prime 2 and 3 Remastered. And I remember reading it, and I'm like, he didn't even say that he was working on it, but
Yeah.
it was spun in this way to make it look like he was working on it.
It's almost like one of those things with by Nintendo causing an issue, they're almost like turning it into more than it needs to be.
Oh, I do sometimes wonder that, but then like Nintendo are just litigious with everything, right? So it's very hard to know. I'm like, is there more to this? Does Prime 2 Remastered exist?
So like,
shut it down, yeah.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like, Nintendo's legal team separate from the rest of Nintendo, right? Like, so I think sometimes people see like when Nintendo do these different things, they issue these takedowns, what have you, and you think all of Nintendo is evil. Nintendo is a organization of different people in different groups doing different things.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
100%. And I think for the most part, people don't have any problems with the devs, right? They're geniuses. They do their jobs well.
Sure.
I think when people have problems with Nintendo, it's usually with legal or upper management, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, who made the decision to price Mario Kart 8?
Yeah. Or even that tech demo. Remember that the tech demo?
The welcome tour.
Yeah.
That's just I'm never gonna buy it. I'm never gonna buy it. I think it's $10, which that's cheap, but also like I'm not gonna spend a dime on that thing. If it was in the system, I would have tried it out. But because it's not, I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah.
Unless it's free for NSO members. That might be a neat thing. Make it free for NSO members. That would maybe be a way to kind of improve NSOs.
That could be an idea as well. Have you read Reggie's book, Disrupting the Game?
I have not.
It's really, really good. But he's got one section where he is the reason Wii Sports was packed with the Wii.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. So he had to heavily push for that and advocate for that and try and convince both Miyamoto and Iwata to include it as a pack-in because they did not want to do it. And he had to fight tooth and nail to make it happen. But
it was a great maybe that was like his single best like move.
Greatest decision ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Insane.
And so I don't know what it is, but like Nintendo Japan just have this thing about They don't want to give away anything for free. It's just.
I mean, I understand that, right? I think, that attitude, it does help with the perception of their brand and their value. Their games don't drop in price, and that sends a message, right? At the same time, if Wii Sports was not a pack-in, the Wii Sports would not have been nearly as successful.
100%. Yeah, you're bang on. Yeah, and it's not black and white. Obviously, there's times when it should apply and times when it shouldn't. I just don't think charging.
By the way, how much time do you have?
I probably got another 15.
Okay. All right. Cool. Because there's a couple questions for you, but I also know we talked a little bit about maybe talking some Zelda.
Okay.
First, let's wrap up the Prime 2, Prime 3 conversation.
Yeah. It might happen. It might not. There you go.
Brilliant. I'll just say that I think it's very curious that they revealed the GameCube app, which I called, so happy about. But when they showed the incoming slate of games over the next few months, Prime 2 was not part of it. So obviously there's a lot of GameCube games, but with Prime 4 on the way and them not picking Prime 2 or Prime 1 for the matter, right? I mean, you have Prime Master, so it's not as big of a deal, but still, it's a very curious omission. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and if they do put Prime 2 on GameCube, what about Prime 3?
Right.
You've still got this gap there. So, I don't know. Do they put it on GameCube? HD ports, remasters? I don't know.
The thing is, the Switch 2 could easily have a Wii NSO the same way they have GameCube. I could see
100%. Yeah. Yep. It could happen. But is it more financially viable for them to just remaster a Wii game or HDify a Wii game,
right?
Like they did with Skyward Sword,
right? Yeah. I mean, the same can be said about GameCube. We thought that they would give us a remaster for. I mean, we thought they would give us Wind Waker again, and there is some sort of executive. It might have been Bill. I'm not sure who that said we could still get Wind Waker HD even though Wind Waker's in GameCube and itself. And I think that is technically true, but we're not going to see it for a few years if it ever does come.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
But also, we have rumors of F-Zero GX Remastered. I don't think that's happening. If it was going to happen, it's definitely not happening now.
No.
Granted, I'm happy with what we're getting. You can play online. It looks great in HD, widescreen, Soul Calibur 2. I'm super excited about it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough call, but we'll see.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Zelda. So what's funny is that, for me, I would say my top franchises are Zelda, Mario, like Super Mario, right? Like the adventure games, and Metroid. In what order? Debatable. Maybe Zelda's usually at the top. I don't know. They're all very close, right? Like Super Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Metroid Prime. They're all up there in my, most favorite games of all time. And Xenoblade is actually pretty close up there too. But I haven't talked that much about Zelda since the Direct, even though there were several Zelda announcements technically. Wind Waker and GameCube NSO, Breath and Tears Switch 2 editions, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Normally, when there's some sort of Zelda announcement, I'm making 7 Zelda Theory videos in 8 days. But I haven't made any. And yet, I do plan on talking about Zelda. I do think Nintendo has an even bigger Zelda plan. But I personally am just, I don't know. I feel like this is a down Zelda year. Maybe we could talk a little bit about Age of Imprisonment. I'm not saying you and I mean, if you want to, feel free to talk about it. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit too late for me to be excited about Age of Imprisonment. And I'm ready for the next generation of Zelda.
Yeah, I mean, the newest Zelda game, the 3D one, will be years away. You're getting Switch 2 versions of 2 of the greatest Zeldas ever made. Obviously, Wind Waker on GameCube, and I think they try to release one new Zelda game a year, and I think Hyrule Warriors is the Zelda game this year.
Yeah.
The new one.
What do you think is next year's?
I think a remake or a remaster of Zelda.
Does it rhyme with Sublime? Or is it rhyme with incense? Or that's not.
Well,
no.
You could effectively just
Wincest.
you could just up-res the art of Ocarina of Time 3D, the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time, and just make it HD. That could be an option. I mean, the Wind Waker HD, fine, I guess.
I to be honest, I think this would be more like a visually a full-blown remake, or maybe something like Prime Remastered. Visually,
I don't know, man. That would be a tall order.
it would be.
Possibly. Yeah, it would take a while to do it. I mean, I don't think they'd do a full-blown remake. I think they would take the existing assets on the 3DS and then maybe just tweak them, or get a third-party studio, I don't know, Tantalus maybe, to do what they did with Skyward Sword HD and Twilight Princess HD. I think if they need to fill up that year, because 3D Zelda is going to be ages away. Away. We're talking like 4 years.
Which is why I think they need something to kind of showcase. Like, I think it needs to be a little bit of a visual showcase, which is why I lean in the direction of it being more ambitious. I've talked about this for a while. I don't know how much you've kind of followed that, but like, you know, Aonuma has like a pattern of like hinting at future Zelda releases, and this doesn't prove to what level of fidelity or effort or ambition it's going to be, right? But there are two different Ocarina, interviews with Aonuma where he's teased Ocarina of Time, sort of. So there's a history of him kind of like laughing or saying, "Oh, no comment," and then, "Oh, that applies to something," right? So like there was a Game Informer interview where he was asked, "Hey, so is there an Ocarina of Time remake?" And he says he laughs and says no comment. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, the writer of that article actually saw one of my videos on it and said, "Hey, just something else to add." In that interview, I didn't put in the article, but he told me to make sure I clarify that he laughed. And when I look throughout the history of these Aonuma interviews, he tends to like laugh or say something witty or funny when he does like this kind of subtle tease towards a Zelda game. He's done it. He did it with Echoes of Wisdom recently. He did it with Majora's Mask 3D. He did it with Link's Awakening. And so he said no comment for Ocarina of Time remake, but within that same month, there's another interview that came out about them doing a Dungeon Maker, and Aonuma just said flat out, "No, it's not happening." So he does just outright say no. He doesn't just do the, no comment thing. And then there's another interview with Nintendo Dream Magazine, is a Japanese publication, and he made, I'm paraphrasing, right, based off memory, but he suggested something to the idea, because they were talking about Rauru from Tears of the Kingdom, but he said he didn't think fans would really remember that name, that character's name, because alluding to Ocarina of Time, and he kind of placed extra emphasis on it. So, I look at that stuff. I look at the Zelda's 40th anniversary. We have the movie now confirmed coming out April 2027, and so the marketing for that movie could align with a 40th anniversary campaign the year prior. And we do need kind of something biggish Zelda somewhat early on, because to your point, we are years away from, a proper new Zelda game. And I'm like, all right, well, I think they're probably remaking Ocarina of Time.
Possibly.
So,
yeah, I mean, whether it's a full-blown remake or a remaster, that is the question. And obviously there will be a Zelda game coming out every year going forward, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, usually. And with the Zelda movie in 2027, obviously they want to build momentum towards that. Yeah. So
we also have that Zelda Lego set, which came out recently. It has the Deku Tree from both Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time, which I found very curious.
Yep. Yeah. So there is stuff happening in the background. Obviously, the Zelda film is being shot here in New Zealand. I'm currently inquiring about being an extra in it. I know they're in pre-production. They have just assembled the crew. Well, starting to assemble the crew right now. So I've had some game devs reach out to me, and they're like, "Hey, when you find out how to become an extra, let us know, and we'll fly from the United States to be in it." I'm like, wow,
awesome.
That's next level dedication. So that is on the horizon. Apparently it's a trilogy. they're going to shoot it over a
Right?
period of 6 years. Yeah, I don't know
So
if they're doing the whole
exciting.
Peter Jackson thing where they'll shoot it all at the same time. I don't think so, because I think they shot Lord of the Rings for like 200 days or something crazy.
That's
if you're going to do all 3 films, and if the first
Yeah.
one's coming out in 2027, that doesn't seem feasible. And Lord of the Rings was in pre-production for 2 years. Usually, movies are in pre-production for 3 to 6 months. If it's a big blockbuster, maybe a
Sure.
year. So, yeah, man. So that's another thing that's on the cards. It's cool.
That's very cool. You think it'll be what kind of a race do you think you'll be in the movie? Hylian, Goron?
I can't be a Goron. I'm too small. I'm not big enough. I'm not big enough to be a Goron.
Maybe a Zora?
Yeah, maybe a Zora. I don't think I'm short enough to be a Cockery. Who else? Who are the other?
I don't know. They got some really good camera tricks nowadays.
They do.
Yeah.
Or I could just be a Hylian.
Yeah, I mean
don't know.
that's probably that's probably what you'll be, because they'll probably need a lot of extras for like the castle town. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I've got a few friends that are trying to get roles in it. It's a pretty big thing here, and they're shooting a Lord of the
I'm
Rings
looking
film.
forward to the leaked screen, like tell someone with a phone from far away on a hill is like, hey, that's a boner,
Dude,
right?
That'll be me. Take a picture, send it through to you.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely happening. There's some people that think it's not being shot here. It definitely is being shot here. Yeah, like a lot of the actors that I know are trying to get roles in it, even if it's just a small role. And yeah, as I said, they're location scouting, they're assembling the crew. I think they're making revisions to the script currently. Yeah, so I mean, there's still so many questions, because I don't know how much of it will be location based.
Sure.
How much of it will be CGI? I mean, Ganondorf, do you do that with makeup? Do you make that CGI? And the casting of Link, I mean, I guarantee you the casting, they'll announce that in a Nintendo Direct. Miyamoto will come out and he'll be like, Tom Holland is Link.
Oh,
Well,
I
don't know if it is Tom Holland.
on the note of people who might leak things. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I feel like next, I think this year makes sense to push Mario's 40th, and then next year you push Zelda. And normally they don't do like a big thing for Zelda for 40th anniversary, but I feel like because it's the beginning of the Switch 2 generation, you have the movie around. Also, we have evidence to think that Zelda's the next expansion to the Super Nintendo world, right? So they might make an announcement on that relatively soon.
Yeah, that's true.
So a lot of these things might be aligning, right? So, if there's a time to kind of push the 40th anniversary, or an anniversary, I should say, right? This might be it. But, I want to ask you about the Link thing. I'm curious on your opinion on this, because if they are filming it for 6 straight years, because I saw that report, I believe it. Are they going to get someone who's like in their early 20s now? Or are they going to get someone who's like 12 to 15 and they're going to film this kind of like Harry Potter style, knowing that they will age per movie, so they can start off with young Link and end with adult Link? I saw your face. That's exactly how I feel about it, but I'm asking you because I want your opinion.
I think that would be a tall order, and I think it just makes the production more complicated.
Sure.
You could do it, but I mean, I think they're going to do an original story, by the way. I don't think they're going to do like Ocarina of Time.
Oh, I totally agree, but I just meant like maybe they could still have references, right? So there could be some tropes that they follow. I hope that's not one of them, because I do agree with you that seems kind of like a mess.
Yeah, or they do 2 separate actors.
Sure, they could have flashbacks.
Yeah. So that could be another option.
Yeah.
Casting someone and for them to go into the role later, it's a risky thing. I mean, what happens if, heaven forbid, the actor dies? Like anything can happen. So insurance would be very costly for something like that. So I don't think they would do that. But yeah, I don't know exactly what their plans are with the trilogy yet. Whether they're going to shoot the first film and then maybe do the other 2 afterwards.
Sure.
Part of the reason why it's being shot in New Zealand, this is a theory, by the way, is because Wes Ball the director. Have you seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
Oh yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a bit skeptical when I heard he was directing it because I'd watched
Yeah.
Maze Runner and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And then I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and I was like, oh no, he's got this.
Right.
He's got just based on the visual style, and he's originally a visual effects artist that became a director, right? And he worked very closely with Weta on the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes films. Obviously, Weta is based in New Zealand, so he can work more closely with them, like
That's
in the same vicinity. So he can go off to a location, shoot it, come back to Weta, and work with them in person. Yeah,
it'd be hilarious if they do like a forest temple and they bring back the monkeys from Twilight Princess. And they kind of use some of that technology. I doubt that'll happen, but it'll be kind of funny.
Well, you could. I mean, if Weta already have the technology to do it, then yeah, it's a good idea. But it all depends on what the story is. I mean, I think the hardest thing will just be casting Link, because you're basically taking a mute character, and they'd have the same problem with Metroid casting Samus, because you're basically taking a character that is an avatar, really.
Yeah, and at least there's some voice acting with Samus, you know.
Yeah, at least with Samus, you kind of get a glimpse, but Onuma's said many times that Link is a link to the player, right?
Yeah.
So they don't. So Link doesn't really have a personality. So
and then make him mute. That's gonna be bad.
Yeah, they can't make him mute.
They can make him like, you know, maybe very conservative with his words, right? But he still has to have words. He still needs to be able to talk.
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, to be honest, and I was talking to Eric Kozlowski, because we did a review of Tears of the Kingdom, and he's a former Retro Studios dev, and we reviewed Tears of the Kingdom together. And we were even talking about in Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, it's starting to become a bit weird now with Zelda talking to him, and he's just blank, not saying anything.
Yeah.
So there's no way you could do it without it coming across corny in a film. I think it's a different medium, and I think you very much need Link to talk. But the problem is everyone will have a different idea of what Link should sound like,
right?
What his personality is.
It happened with the Mario movie.
They did, yeah. Well, that's right.
I thought they actually did a good job with Mario's voice.
I think they did a good job as well. Like, is it you know, movie of the year material, Oscar winning? No, but it's great for what it does, and it's very much something for the fans, and I think that's what Zelda will be.
Yeah, I think the Zelda movie is gonna be more highly rated by critics.
Well, you'd hope so.
It's
more risky to do it live action.
But... Yeah, I mean the thing about the Mario movie is that I think it did exactly what Nintendo wanted it to do, right? I don't want to say it was bad by design. I just think it was what it was by design, right? It was never intended to be something that was going to be like a critical acclaimed darling. Like it was probably always set up to never review that well, according to movie critics. Zelda, on the other hand, I think. I mean, I don't want to say it's gonna. I'm not saying this is gonna win awards.
Yeah,
that would be a best case scenario, probably, right? I just hope it's considered to be good. That's it.
Yeah. I think they're attempting to try and do their version of Lord of the Rings, because Nintendo are huge fans of Lord of the Rings. They've acknowledged it in interviews. You look at Twilight Princess, a direct response to the Lord of the Rings films.
That's why I put the Twilight Princess art in the thumbnail, because like, all right, so we're talking about the movie. Like this is they went in that direction for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally. So I think this is their attempt to try and emulate something like Lord of the Rings. Probably why it's being shot in New Zealand as well. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they can pull it off. It's a tall order.
I've always had this argument with people, and I've talked about it with all of my friends. Like I think a lot of people are very doubtful that Nintendo's going to do a good job here. My argument has always been that if Nintendo didn't think they could do a good job, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
They've been very cautious with their IP.
Yeah, well, that's right. Especially after the first Mario movie, which was a disaster. So they're a lot more heavily involved. I think Nintendo is actually co-financing it as well. And I know Miyamoto is heavily involved as a producer. So they'll have their eyes on it. They'll have their attention to detail on it, just like with everything else. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's move on to some chats, but I know you got to go soon.
Yeah. Oh,
This one
maybe
in
like 5 minutes.
particular,
Yeah.
this one in particular is for you specifically. So
Okay.
Free Metroid Hat, thank you for the super chat. Question for Kiwi Talks: do you think we'll be switching between beams or stacking beams in Prime 4?
Good question. I
Amazing
think,
question.
yeah. I think there will be switching beams. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think there will be switching beams. I don't think the stacking beams was well received in Prime 3.
No.
And I think that part of the reason they did it is because of the lack of buttons with the Wii controller.
Point.
So that's why they went that route. Obviously, they found a way to deal with it when they went back and they did Prime 1 and Prime 2. But I remember them saying that it took them 9 months just to work out how to do the control scheme with Prime
Wow.
3. So yeah, I think switching beams will be a thing. It adds more of a dynamic to combat as well.
It just makes it makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And have you noticed the dodging mechanics that they seem to have added?
Yeah, the dash. So you can dash backwards, you can dash mid-air.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
they're adding more in terms of combat, and obviously the mouse controls add to that as well. But
I actually really like the idea. Do I have a Joy-Con near me? Okay, I have a Joy-Con.
okay.
Oh, it's the Switch 2. It's a mock-up.
Oh, okay. I was like, hey, how did you get it?
Yeah, I stole it. Nah, it's just a mock-up. See, it's not a real magnet, but I mean, it's a real magnet, but it's not a
nice.
real. But it's a pretty good mock-up. It's good for advertising accessories and stuff. But anyways, right? So I like the idea of having this like a mouse.
Yep.
And you have this control stick is right there, right? So
Yep.
it's actually, this is all usable in mouse mode in theory. And so I actually love the idea of going back to changing beam weapons and being able to just, flick the stick for change. Like the same way it works like this, still works like this.
Yeah.
You still use it to change beams. So I hope you're right. I don't know if you're right. I hope you're right. Yeah. Yeah. I will say we do know that they're doing more with the D-pad buttons at least, right? Because we've seen that the missiles is just one of the 4 D-pad buttons. Now that doesn't guarantee all 4 D-pad buttons will be used, because I remember having that theory for Echoes of Wisdom, and they only use 3 of the 4. But I think it stands to reason that it's at least gonna be more than just missiles in that D-pad. So what will they be?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's probably gonna be something.
Well, you've got visors as well. There'll probably be the whole visor thing again. Yeah, time will tell.
Yeah, for sure.
So much we don't know. Good question. Free Metroid Hat.
Yeah, awesome. Now, yeah, feel free to step out whenever. There are some Metroid related things.
I could probably answer like 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'll have to go.
Okay. So Sam Bono had asked earlier, Andres, do y'all think Metroid Prime 4 should be $80?
No, it won't be $80.
I don't think it will be. Yeah,
No.
I think it'll be $70 on Switch 2, $60 on Switch 1.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah, it's not going to be $80. No. Metroid doesn't sell enough for them to do that.
I mean,
they can get away with it
cheaper.
Yeah, well, maybe they can get away with it with Mario Kart because it's Mario Kart.
Same way they can get away with it with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, and they even made like Metroid Prime Remastered was a full-on remaster, new artwork and everything, and they still made it $40, right?
Right.
And you look at Skyward Sword HD, what was that? Full price. Even though it's just
it's insane.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's an emulation. Yeah, it's crazy. But
yeah, so Metroid games aren't going to be $80. No way.
No
way.
However, the Super Mario Plus Legacy, I'm just gonna keep going. So if you got to step out, just let me know, and then
Okay.
Yeah. What price should the new 3D Mario be if it ever comes? It will come someday, and what it should be versus what it will be.
It should be $70,
but it will be.
But
80.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's 80.
Yeah, it'll be. 80.
I mean, if I'm trying to be objective about this, and I try and put myself in Nintendo's position, I would think to myself, I think we can get away with $80
Right.
from a business standpoint.
Now, the only way I see this not happening is if Mario Kart World bombs sale-wise.
Yeah, which it won't. There's
No,
no way.
it won't.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Okay. One more, and then I'll have to love you and leave you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this one is Metro related. For Metroid Prime 4, do we know if we can see Samus's reflection in her visor when she shoots near a wall?
Yes, that is confirmed.
Yeah, I saw it. It's there. She looks great.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
There
They've
you go.
still got a lot of the nuanced effects.
Yeah.
Of the older Metroid games. They'll keep that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll kind of expand this a little bit. I remember doing in my initial graphics analysis for the first trailer that came out in June 2024. I haven't looked that deeply recently yet, but I did notice that when you would shoot the arm cannon, the light would kind of light up as it would pass by things, including the space pirates. I don't know if that's still there now. I assume it is. It's not quite the same as what it was in the original Prime games, but I only bring it up because in Prime Remastered, they got rid of it basically.
Yeah. So there's a clip on my YouTube channel where one of the former devs talks about why it's been omitted. And it basically comes down to, I'll try and simplify this as much as possible because he did give a very technical answer.
Yeah.
But basically in the GameCube, because of how the hardware worked, it didn't cost anything in terms of its work on the CPU because it just based on how the hardware worked, it could just automatically do it. When they moved over to Switch, that doesn't quite work as well, and so they'd have to redo it from scratch, and they probably didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah, it was also like a simple thing back then. It wasn't if they were to do it but with modern visuals, it wouldn't look the same. They would have to probably like rethink it.
Yep. Yeah. They'd have to redo everything. It's not as simple as just translating it over and making it work. So they probably had a budget in terms of where they could allocate stuff in terms of different effects, and they probably just made the call. And it's the same thing with the thermal visor and remastered. It's got motion blur, and a lot of people have gotten, motion sickness from it. And once again, it's a problem because it worked in conjunction with the GameCube hardware. It was based around the hardware. And then so when they translated it to Switch, it didn't quite work as well. You can go on YouTube and find the actual clip. It's about 5 minutes. I'm I'm providing the most simple answer to it. It's a bit more complex than that.
I'm pretty sure I've linked that specific clip before when I've talked about it.
Yeah.
But
cool, man. Hey, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for the invite, dude. This has been cool to chat with you, and thanks to the chat for all the questions. And
no, they loved it. I already see it. They're saying you should come back again sometime. So
yeah, sure. Happy to do it
conversation,
again.
Bro.
Yeah, man. All the best, bro. Love what you do. Keep doing your thing. Keep grinding hard. Block out the haters. You know how it is.
Yeah. Same to you, by the way.
So. Yeah, man. Cool. All right. See you guys.
All right. Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Cool. Yeah, guys. So that is Kiwi Talks, right? Reese Riley, Kiwi Talks. His channel and Twitter are linked in the description below. Amazing interviews. He does fantastic work. So please check him out. And he has some good tweets too. So check him out there as well. Or just his socials in general. I'm gonna focus on chat now. We'll do a little bit more Q&A for a few minutes, and then we'll finish up. So I saw Michael put this question up earlier, so I will get to it. Do you need a SD Express card to play Switch 2? You don't need a SD Express card to play a Switch 2 because it has already some internal storage. However, if you want to have expanded storage, you will need a SD Express card, right? So yes, most people will probably eventually need to get an XD Express card on their Switch 2 because 256 gigabytes of internal storage is nice. It's faster storage than Switch 1. It's bigger than Switch 1, but You're gonna eventually run out of that if you play a lot of games. If you only play a few games, then maybe you won't need to get it. But yeah. So, by the way, I just want to point out, Free Metroid Hat's been a member for 15 straight months. Thank you for being a member all this time. I appreciate you. Boo Mini, I believe you gifted a membership way earlier. Thank you for gifting that membership. I do not know who won it. If I scroll through, maybe I will find, because the thing is, the chat doesn't show me everything. After a certain point, I can't catch it anymore. It's gone. Unless, because I actually have two versions of the chat. Oh, this one will be even harder to find. It's unlikely. Wait, hold on. It's not impossible though. It's impossible. Well, maybe it's not impossible. I'm fine. I'm looking. I'm not giving up. Not yet. I'm about to give up though. I'm very close to giving up. I'm very close. Super close to giving up. Yeah, I think I can go back pretty far. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so unfortunately, I did find where it was posted, but this version of the chat, which is not the normal YouTube chat, does not tell me who became a member. So I don't know, but whoever you are, well actually, I have a third way of finding out. This kind of makes a lot of sense. Let's see here. And drum roll, please. Joycey got their membership renewed. Congratulations. I'm scrolling back. I'm now seeing that Emma52 was able to remind me that Richard was the code name for Link's Awakening. Thank you for that. Nintendo Let's Play added me way earlier. Do you think pre-orders are next week still? That's a good question. I think that next week is. I don't doubt it any less than I do yesterday. So none of it's guaranteed, right? But I'm optimistic that it'll be next week. Yeah, we'll see. Varen Verby asks, how's Ruby? She's doing well. I could bring her in a little bit. Not gonna bring her quite yet, but I'll bring her in a few minutes before I end the stream. But you guys will have to remind me, because it would be the first time I promised to bring Ruby and I forget. So I'll try not to forget. But yeah. Nature and Music Wyatt, what did you think about the recently leaked, allegedly retro demo music game? Yeah, Harmony? I mean, it sounds like they tried to do a new thing, and well, they didn't get very far. And that's it. I don't have much else to say on it, because what we saw was a very basic image. The idea of a musically based game, I mean, could be cool, so, but I don't have much else to make from that. I don't think that answers the question as to what Retro Studios has been working on this entire time between Country Freeze and Metroid Prime 4. I think it's just part of the overall picture, but it is, it's clearly it's at least one canceled project, which we kind of assumed, and there it is. Yeah, Snick Snack. I really enjoyed my conversation with Kiwi Talks. If we can get him on again in the future, we will. Yeah. John Wicks, I think I kind of pretty much spoke on the pre-order thing. Bilbo Kun on Twitter is saying they've heard April 21st for the United States and 23rd for Canada. We'll see if that holds true. John Wicks, what is your thoughts on Switch 2? My thoughts on Switch 2. I'm personally very excited for the console. I mean, I'm a hardcore Nintendo fan, so it's pretty much guaranteed to be no matter what. But, I think this console is clearly clearly better than Wii U, clearly better than 3DS. I think, I mean, from a sale, do I think Switch 2 will outsell DS? I don't know, but am I more excited for Switch 2 than I was DS back in the day? I am. I think I have a better lineup than than GameCube's first lineup. I'm just looking at this from how cool is the hardware for the respective time, and how good is the lineup for the respective time in comparison to, other Nintendo console launches in the past. And I would say Switch 2 has a stronger lineup than most Nintendo consoles in their first few months, and is a more interesting console than most other Nintendo consoles for their respective times as well. And part of that is because it is more expensive. Getting that 120 hertz screen, big deal. The fact that we are seeing that Switch 2 visuals and performance are ranging somewhere in between PS4 and PS5. To me, obviously there's a lot of wiggle room there, but somewhere in the middle is kind of what we were thinking, is kind of what we thought they needed. And the fact that some Nintendo games are going to be able to look and run really well, I think we're really just scratching the surface here. Everything we're hearing about mouse controls, it sounds like a godsend. Like, I would argue perhaps even somewhat revolutionary, at least in terms of maybe revolutionary might be a little bit too much of hyperbole there. But I do think it's at least innovation. And I think it's truly building off of a lot of the core concept of Switch, which is providing multiple ways to enjoy games. And this is bringing in that amazing mouse gameplay we see on PC, but onto a hybrid console that you can use in handheld mode, or you can use in TV mode, docked mode, right? And what's interesting, right, is that we like to break gaming down in terms of two different ways. You have handheld mode and you have docked mode on the TV, but really there's more. We have tabletop, right? So that exists. I think Switch 2 has improved upon tabletop with the bigger screen, the improved kickstand, the controls. That's all going to benefit that third mode. But there's kind of another consideration here. Where am I at right now? I'm not in my living room. I'm not in my bedroom where there are TVs. I'm in front of my computer where there are monitors at a desk. And a lot of people game like this. They got a nice comfy chair. My chair is not comfy. I just bought a cheap one. I haven't bothered to get a more comfortable one in last couple of years. I've had a couple comfortable chairs in the past, but I just haven't felt like picking up one recently. But anyways, this is a setup that people have, right? I'm sure some of you have it yourselves, where you sit down at a desk, you have all those colored lights, you have your nice little monitor right in front of you, you have your Switch and your PlayStation or your gaming PC, and you play right there at your desk. That is an experience the Switch is. You can technically do that with your Switch, right? But I think having the mouse controls, you're sort of appealing to that PC gamer. And maybe they will want to play their Switch 2 on their PC setup. And the mouse controls will be right there readily available. I mentioned a couple of days ago, because now we are in this 4K era for Nintendo, I did pick up a better monitor. 1080p monitors aren't going to cut anymore to edit in 4K. Right, so I got a better monitor, and I have it right here in front of me. I quite like it a lot. It's a 34-inch curved screen at 165 hertz. I'm very happy with this monitor. I think it's great. But now I'm like, hey, maybe I could play my Switch 2 on here, right? I could do some PC gaming. I don't really, but I could. But if I get my Switch 2, I already use a mouse. Let's pretend this is a Joy-Con. This is a mouse. I could play Metroid Prime 4 here, 120 hertz, and it's going to be awesome. So, I'll have that option, right? I think the Switch 2 appeals to that as well. So, yes, I'm excited for Switch 2. You have Donkey Kong Bananza, first 3D Donkey Kong game in decades. Mario Kart World, probably the biggest, most amazing Mario Kart game ever. Metroid Prime 4, I think, is going to be one of the greatest games also ever. I think it's going to be that good. Pokemon Legends ZA, listen, Legends Arceus was one of my favorite Pokemon games. All these games are coming out this year. They announced Dusk Bloods, a From Software exclusive for Nintendo. From Software are legendary developers. I think we're just scratching the surface here. There's still so much more Nintendo will announce in the coming months and years. So, yeah, my hype level, my excitement for Switch 2 is so high. So high. Wilberforce Wooster, high-end office chairs are what you really want for a desk. You may be right. I probably should look into that as opposed to a gaming chair. Cat Dad, the mouse mode is insanely revolutionary. It's the biggest reason I'm excited for Switch 2. So many possibilities. There truly are a lot. I had a thought last night. Imagine Star Fox flying with mouse controls. Yeah. Or Splatoon with mouse controls. Right? Or Mario Maker 3 with mouse controls. Not every Nintendo game is going to benefit with mouse controls. Look at Mario Kart World. Look at Donkey Kong Bonanza. Although you could use Donkey Kong Bonanza to aim around a little bit. But even third-party games, we know that Cyberpunk has it. Hogwarts Legacy has it. I at this point, I want every third-party game that has a PC version to have mouse controls. And I'll go a step further. Any game where there's a cursor or aiming should have mouse controls. It's just better. So, yes. And here's something else. You don't just need to have a table or a desk. They've talked about how you can use the mouse on your lap. Right now I'm using my mouse on my lap, and it works surprisingly well, my mouse. But let's say you're at your couch. The couch has a little armrest. Do it right there. Or you place a pillow on your lap, if that makes it easier, right? Or some sort of thing. Like, I think mouse mode is a lot more convenient and ready for use than people realize. I get that, when you're sitting on a couch, you don't always want to use mouse mode, but I think it's really like, if you account for, you could do it on a pillow, your lap, armrest, desk, like there's table, like it's a lot more applicable in different scenarios than people want to give it credit for. You may not want to always use it, and you don't have to. But I think it's something that a lot of people are going to use very, very often if they are a fan of just better and faster, more fluid aiming. So, yeah, I think it's a big deal. John Wicks, are you going to live stream the day the Switch 2 releases? That is a really good question. I do not have a confirmed answer right now because quite frankly, I just don't know what's going to be happening come that time. I'm not sure. I'm definitely gonna have content on that day. I'm not sure if I'm going to. I don't know. I will say this: with this screen I have in front of me, I can see myself playing, like being more willing to play games on here, right? Because oftentimes I really like playing games on my TV, in 4K, big screen. This monitor right here, up close, I'm a little bit more inclined to play games on here than I was before. But also, I don't love live streaming gameplay too much because I feel like I'm so distracted because I got to pay attention to the chat, right? But it's like it kind of makes it hard for me to immerse myself in the game. So I'm not much of a person who likes to. I'm not a streamer, right? I can stream conversations where the focus is me talking to someone or talking to you in the chat. But you throw in a game, I can do it, but will I enjoy it? And that's the issue. I think I lose a little bit of my experience of the game by doing that. And so if it's a game I've already played before, I'm more willing to live stream, right? Because it's not like I need to re-experience the game. But, if I'm playing Metroid Prime 4 for the first time, I'm not sure I want to, I'll be too distracted to fully immerse myself. And I want to be fully immersed. Diablo Switch 2 will be crazy with mouse mode. It's a good point, Gerard. Yeah. Wilberforce Booster, maybe stream 30 minutes of the intro or something. Maybe. Listen, I'm not saying I won't stream. I think what's going to happen is that I will give it a try. I've given it a try before, and we'll see how it goes. It's going to make sense to stream Mario Kart World. Like, it absolutely is. Am I going to stream that day one? I don't know, but I probably will. Maybe I can have a second playthrough for Prime 4. Like, these things are possible. Yeah. Mark Rochelle, play it solo first time, lights out, sound up. Yes. Yes. Everything dark, just audio. That it's the only thing that exists in the room. Yeah. Alma, remember how I said for over a year I want Tears of the Kingdom at 60 FPS, Andres? LOL, I got my wish. You have your wish. I'm actually excited to play Breath and Tears at 60 FPS. I don't know if I'm gonna replay them from beginning to end. Not immediately, but I'm at least gonna kind of like tinker with them. And because I'm an NSO member, an NSO Plus member, it's free for me, so I'm not complaining about the price. But that's because I bought it all years ago. John Wicks, what if you do a live stream where you play Mario Kart World online with your yeah, I mean I can do that. Mario Kart World I can live stream. I probably will stream at least Mario Kart World a little bit. So yeah. Anyways, I think okay. I almost forgot Ruby. I'm now gonna fetch Ruby. If there's any final things you want me to talk about, I'll put him in now. I'm gonna fetch my cat. I'll be back in like 60 seconds, if not less. Don't leave. Don't leave, Ruby. Hey. Hey. I brought her for a second and she ran away. So I didn't bring her. She was napping, so she's a little tired. Ruby. The other day, I had like a pen on. Was it? I don't think it was on Nintendo Prime stream, and I just had her dancing around on camera. But at least she showed up for a little bit this time. Anyways, I think yeah, I think we're good. I think we've reached the end of the stream. Thank you all. It was an enjoyable one, and yeah, I will see you all very soon. Take care.